exercise science program. Before I get started, I was chatting with Dr. Shaw when he was giving those statistics about students who get lost to science. I was almost one of those students. So in high school, I think I lost the love of science, and I got rescued at the start of my college career. So I'm very grateful to that first biology professor. I ended up making a career of it, so we can rescue students if we can identify those students. So I think that's really important. So today my talk is titled Exercise Science, a Launch Pad for a Career in Health Sciences and Beyond. So I'm going to spend a lot of my time kind of talking about what exercise science is. It's a really growing field and a particularly growing major. So up at Shenandoah, we make up a fourth of the College of Arts and Sciences and a tenth of all the undergraduate students. That's very common at other universities, and you see this degree everywhere. So I think kind of the burning question is, what is exercise science? Not everybody really knows. I have a Ph.D. in it, and I don't think my parents quite entirely know what exercise science is still, so we're still working on the education of what is this degree. So I'm going to start with a little bit about who I am. What was exercise science? So this is a field that has changed. What is exercise science now? A little bit about the research I've done in the past and some of the research I'm doing currently. Some questions for students in exercise science if you find this might be a good fit for some of the students that you work with. I have important skills. I'm going to give one important skill, probably the most important skill I think that folks in exercise science are maybe just likely to have. And then some opportunities for you all and your students as far as exercise science goes and what I can provide to you guys in the future. So I'm born and raised in Pennsylvania. I was born in Danville, Pennsylvania, grew up there, and then I went off to school at Penn State University, so just an hour or so west of there. I got my bachelor's degree in kinesiology. Kinesiology is another fancy word for exercise science. It's the same thing. You'll hear kinesiology, exercise science, human performance. I'm sure the list goes on. There is no cohesiveness in what we call the degree, unfortunately. I ended up staying. I had an opportunity and was offered a spot in a Ph.D. program that I couldn't turn down. That's where my career came from. As far as exercise physiology goes, that's my specialty within exercise science. And then I came down here recently. I'm only in my second year at Shenandoah, teaching within the exercise science department. And I'm kind of our lab guru at Shenandoah. So we just got a new lab, and I basically run that and run all the labs that are happening for our students. So what was exercise science? So exercise science comes out of sport. So if you go way back to ancient Greece, they had this idea of a healthy mind, body, and soul. And so that's kind of the original. You can think of ancient Greece and the Olympics, right? That's where we get that sport from, or that activity. And then that progressed to the military. So Rome took that idea of healthy body and translated that, how can I have a healthy, strong military? And then Germany and countries like Sweden took that and said, how can we better educate individuals on physical health? And that's kind of what exercise science has been up until probably the last 10 years or so. And so when you think of exercise science, you're really thinking of physical education teachers. And I think that's what at least my parents' generation and my grandparents' generation thinks of when they think of exercise science, is that all these people are physical education teachers. So not so. Now, sorry, this is dark on the screen. Now we're in the health sciences for exercise science, and we've really become a leap pad for individuals who want a career within the within the health professions. And that list is growing as far as what can folks do. So a good definition of what exercise science is today, as opposed to just a physical education teacher, it's very much multidisciplinary. And it's the study of human movement involving components of both biological, physical, and health sciences. And we use that to explain the structural and the functional changes that occur in physiology, biochemical, and biomechanical levels. So just looking at those words, we're covering a wide range of sciences. We're looking at biology, we're looking at chemistry, we're looking at physics, we're looking at mathematics. So it's a very multidisciplinary degree, which a lot of people I don't think always realize. So I put up for you a sample of what a curriculum in exercise science might look like for someone at the collegiate level. So you have the traditional staples on the left that everyone's going to have to take: your math, your chemistry, your physiology, your physics, your statistics. And then on the right, it's going to be specific to the exercise science program that you go to. But this is where we get a little more specialized. So my area of expertise is in exercise physiology. I'm 100% not a biomechanist, which is the physics of the body. I'm also 100% not a sports psychologist, right? So the psychological component of health and exercise and movement. So it's very multifaceted. We try and educate and make our students well-rounded in all of these areas. That way they have the option to specialize down the road if they so choose. So a little bit about the research that I have done in the past. So now having a little bit better framework of what exercise science is, not a PE teacher. A lot of the research that occurs now in exercise science is related to health and medicine. And so that comes from where does funding come for research. So the government, the NIH, they fund our research, and they're not going to fund how do we make athletes bigger, faster, stronger. Our Olympic committees, companies like Nike will fund that, but the government's not going to fund that. So the government is curious about how can we make individuals healthier. So if you go into a Ph.D. level in academics, where I come from, research lab in exercise science, you're going to find them doing the same type of research that you're going to find in a medical institution. So I spent my time at Penn State when I was doing research studying the in vivo and in vitro mechanisms of microvascular dysfunction. And how does that contribute to cardiovascular disease and a lot of other diseases that actually have microvascular dysfunction. And so on the left you see some individual's arm, and we actually used to take fibers and put those fibers right under the skin. So we're going to end up using skin as a model of circulation, and we could perfuse different pharmacology to actually study how does the vessel function. What is the communication between the endothelium, the inner layer of the blood vessel, and the smooth muscle. And we actually can characterize and identify cardiovascular disease sooner using this model than you can with traditional models of cardiovascular disease. So why is that important? It's the #1 killer in the United States. When I ask my students this, they automatically say cancer. Though cancer is up there, it is not the #1 killer in the United States. It's cardiovascular disease, heart disease. And so the importance of studying vascular dysfunction is it's the common link of many different diseases. So a lot of the work that I've done in research centers on people with hypertension, so high blood pressure. If you're all thinking to yourself now, you can think of at least one person, maybe a whole handful of individuals who have hypertension in the United States. So that's a very chronic disease that Americans suffer from lack of activity and poor diet. So we use the skin as a model for whole body vascular dysfunction. And the skin's a really great model because it's accessible to us. And we can study the same interactions that would happen to the endothelium, that inner layer, and the smooth muscle that would happen in the big conduit vessels that are much more dangerous to study. And so those two layers, that smooth muscle and that endothelium, they communicate with each other. If you think about all the languages that are spoken in the United States, there's that many languages that speak between the endothelial layer and the smooth muscle layer within a blood vessel. So I took my time and I studied maybe 5 or 6 of those languages when I was doing research on vascular health. And the importance here is that we identify these vascular changes sooner than what it's identified in the conduit vessels. So when you have imaging done on a vessel, they're looking for some sort of blockage to identify that there's some sort of damage to that vessel. And we're capturing that damage earlier, which means if there's an opportunity to stop that damage or to reverse that damage, we're doing it before the vessel is compromised, which is important when we think of this information being translated into pharmacology. So I mentioned the skin is accessible, it's minimally invasive. We put these porous little tubes just right under the skin, and they're going to directly interact then with that microvasculature. So we would be trying to either enhance different signaling pathways or that different language that the vessel is using, or trying to block that language and stop that communication from occurring. I actually come from a thermal physiology background, which makes sense because you thermoregulate by using your skin circulation. And that's where studying the skin as a mechanism for vascular health comes from. So we often use temperature as well to perturb the vessels and to make them dilate or to make them constrict. So some of the work that I did looked at the communication for one language, and that's hydrogen sulfide. So you're driving down the road, you've got your windows down, and all of a sudden you smell that rotten egg smell. So your blood vessels produce that same molecule that makes that rotten egg smell, the sulfide. And so in the blood vessels, we're finding that's actually a really important molecule and one of the really important communication mechanisms within a blood vessel. So you have all these prominent language. So in the United States, you could think of English, Spanish, and some of the other more common languages that are spoken. But then hydrogen sulfide in a blood vessel would be like a backup language. If you got rid of all those other languages, what's another language that people can communicate with? So that's how the blood vessel uses hydrogen sulfide. When there's damage to those other signaling pathways, like when you have hypertension, when you have high cholesterol, when you have type 2 diabetes, what's the backup mechanism for that blood vessel to still function? And so hydrogen sulfide is one of those. Got a complicated schematic for you down on the left-hand side of the screen, and that's showing some of the interaction of those molecules and the signaling pathways of those molecules. So in that arm picture that I showed you earlier, there are 4 fibers in that arm. So we might pick 4 different drugs that are specifically going to block a particular pathway to identify how does that molecule, how does that communication happen in the vessel. And so in this particular study that we're looking at with hydrogen sulfide, what we identified, we were looking at pre or stage 1 hypertensive, so people who are early on in the development of hypertension, right, trying to capture that before the disease has progressed, so if there's an opportunity to stop it or to reverse it, we can. And we found that hypertensive individuals then have a blunted endogenous production of hydrogen sulfide. So their vessels don't produce a lot of hydrogen sulfide the same way that someone with a healthy vasculature would. So they're missing that redundant mechanism. But we did find that you could give it back exogenously and the vessel would respond the same way as if it was being produced within the vessel. So this becomes really important because in our line of work, what we do is the precursor to what happens on the pharmacology end. So we take those drugs and things that have been tested in a cell model and have been tested then in an animal model. In our lab, we're one of the first people to put those into humans because of the model that we have to use the skin circulation. And so the next step for this hydrogen sulfide research is actually applying that to a drug. The drug for hydrogen sulfide in an antihypertensive already exists. It's sildenafil. It's only available in Europe, unfortunately, for all of us here in the United States. And what's really unfortunate about that is we see that this drug is really powerful. It's significantly better than all the antihypertensive drugs that we have on the market now. And so it's in combination with what we have, adding back this slow-releasing hydrogen sulfide moiety from what we've shown in the microvasculature improves the lifespan of individuals who have hypertension and slows down the vessel and the remodeling that's occurring. So it's important that this kind of research happens in an exercise science context because this is what pushes sildenafil to be available in the United States. So they're going to say, no, we need more research to prove that we can have this, improve the efficacy of this drug. So that's some of the research that I've done in the past. So I came from Penn State and R01, a big research institution. That's where you go if you want your job to be 90% research, to a smaller teaching institution. So I'm up the road at Shenandoah now. Those are some of the courses I teach. I specialize primarily within physiology. But I also still do some research. So we have a new research lab. It's just getting up off the ground. Every day I'm putting a new piece of equipment in there and getting that running, because that's my job there. And so some of the stuff that I look at now is actually back to the essence of what would be exercise science. And the importance of that is especially for young, I think, budding exercise scientists, is they need something tangible. What I just presented to you isn't tangible to a freshman. But the type of research that I can do at Shenandoah is tangible to them. It gets them in that frame of mind to do research, and I think that's what's really important. So some of the stuff that I look at now are ergogenic aids on athletic performance. So whether that's a device or a substance that someone ingests. And then also how you link virtual reality and how that affects some different psychological components like association of exercise. And can I improve someone's physical fitness if I use virtual reality congruent with doing a different training program. So those are just a little more tangible for my undergraduate students to work with and just get them in the frame of mind of, yes, I can do research, I can understand methodology, I understand the scientific process. I also do some consulting work with athletics and then the surrounding community, and that's all exercise and health and nutrition related. So some statistics for your students if you're thinking exercise science may be something for them. I'm a minority within exercise science, so less than 1% of people actually go on to get a Ph.D. in exercise science. The vast majority of students who get an exercise science degree stop at a Bachelor of Science, and there is a reason for that. We have a small number who get master's degree and another small amount who get associate's degree. But the vast majority are getting those Bachelor of Science degrees, which I think is a great option, and I hope I'm going to be able to show you why that is. I think that exercise science is one of the best stepping stone degrees. It is a stepping stone into so many of the health professions. So Dr. Shaw was asking me what a lot of our students go and do. Most of our students go into the health professions. So a career where they're going to have to go on and have some sort of additional education, some sort of master's degree or professional program. I think exercise science is a great program for that because it gives you the foundation of the human body. So I liked biology when I was younger, but I hated studying plants and I hated studying animals. So then all of a sudden exercise science is the perfect fit for me, right? Because I only have to study the human body. And the beauty of that is they get to study it more in depth. So my students, I think, have a better background and understanding when they go into these programs than someone who does biology. Not that biology is a bad career, a bad degree option for them. I just think it's more comprehensive if you know you want to go into the health professions to focus on humans as opposed to adding in the plants and animals that may take away a little bit of time from that. A lot of my students that I get at Shenandoah are stuck in this box. They think they can only do athletic training, occupational therapy, physician's assistant, and physical therapy. That's 4 of the ones I had on that previous slide, and that's because at Shenandoah we offer those as grad programs. So they've identified Shenandoah because they want to do those. I spend a lot of my time trying to get my students to come out of that box. So what are the other things you can do if you don't want one of those 4 health professions or one of the several careers that I had on the previous page? Well, other things that you can do with just a bachelor's degree, the standard is being that PE teacher, working as a trainer, working as a coach, working as a strength and conditioning coach. But the ones I'm really trying to push on my students now, since I come from a more research-heavy background, are all these other jobs they can have. So they can work in research and development at Nike as a biomechanist. So if you look at Nike now, the majority of their biomechanists who design their shoes all come from Penn State, the program that I went through. They can work for pharmaceutical companies doing research. So they have a strong background in biology. They have a strong background in chemistry going through our programs. They get all those benchtop skills to be able to go into those careers. They can work for nutrition companies who are often looking at the ergogenic aids of their project or of their products. They can work in tech. So this is a big one. We're trying to get our students to start taking, we have a computer science program that's up and running, or up and coming, I guess you could say, at Shenandoah. I'm pushing them all the time. If you can understand some computer science, you can now work with that computer science individual, and that's a ton of tech that's coming out in the healthcare world. Aegis Shield is looking at ergogenic aids and anti-doping. So they do all the testing for NASCAR and MLB of companies who are doing or sending samples for their athletes to see if doping is occurring. They have the benchtop skills for that job to work in those labs. I think one of the biggest ones is working for medical supply companies. So in the past, those companies reach out to us as programs all the time for our students. In the past, those companies have wanted people in marketing and sales, right? Because that's one branch of the medical supply company. Now, they want people with a health science background because they want people who can go in and talk to nurses, who can go in and talk to physicians, who understand the language, who understand the human body. So that's a big opportunity for our students. Those pay a lot better than a lot of the other careers that they're thinking about, and there's a lot of flexibility in those jobs. So in my opinion, the nice thing about an exercise science degree is your options are endless if you're willing to get outside that box and see what you have available to you. So they asked us about a skill or some sort of knowledge that would be important for your career, and I think this is just important in general of college students, and that is critical thinking. I think that's especially important in the health sciences, in a field that is constantly changing and you constantly have information being thrown in front of your face. So this is a pool of people who work in exercise science-related fields, and it's what their employers thought were the most important skills. And you'll see up here in the right-hand corner that critical thinking was at the top. So not only do I think that, but I think all the people who are the managers of these individuals agree with that critical thinking is really important. So what is critical thinking? You guys all know because you work in education. But it's that ability to conceptualize, apply, analyze, synthesize, and or evaluate some sort of information. So we live in an information world, right? Information is being thrown down our face every day. So how do we take that information and decide if it's good information? How do we really understand that information? So this is an activity I do with my students in my Intro to Exercise Science class. We're trying to get them early when they're a freshman. These are memes that you would see pop up on Facebook. So my students think Facebook is a mode of media and of news. And so I would give them several of these, and I'd let them work in groups, and I'd say, explain this meme to me. Is it true? Is it not true? Where does that come from? So my favorite one of all is the baby carrots, just because I like to eat baby carrots, and that they're unhealthy for you, and you shouldn't eat them, and that they're terrible. Does anybody know anything about baby carrots, or how they make them, why they make them? So my meme tells you they're bad and you shouldn't eat them. Anybody have any background carrots?
Well, they're machine there.
Yeah, they're machines. So they're the ugly carrots, right? So the carrots that don't look pretty to be sold in the grocery store, they process them, they just cut them down so they're pretty little baby carrots. And they are rinsed in chlorine, and that's what this meme is, I think, at some point trying to point out, that they have chlorine in them. All our vegetables are rinsed in a very light chlorine solution so that we don't get E. coli and salmonella or any other sort of diseases. So this, without taking a critical mind thought to it, you say, oh, I'm not going to eat baby carrots. There are people who believe that. Like, yeah, I can't eat baby carrots because of that chlorine and it's bad for you. But they're not using that critical mindset of like, well, how do I tease apart that information? Where do I go to get good information? So information literacy applied with critical thinking is something we're really trying to promote right now in our freshman students when they come in. This is a great activity if you're thinking of something to do with your students, particularly if you have high school students or college students. This work was done by folks out at Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado. And this publication, and if you can't get access to it, I'm happy to send it to you after the fact. I have a PDF of it. It goes through the whole mindset and the whole strategy of how to teach students to be critical thinkers. So they have like 6 or 7 activities that students can go through. There's videos, there's links, there's activities, or supplemental activities for all of them. And just teaching from different contexts how to create students or how to build this critical thinking in students. It also provides an assessment tool. Can I track in my students if every couple weeks I'm doing one of these activities or making it apply to the content that you're teaching in class? Can I track whether or not those students are increasing their critical thinking or not? Which I think is a really important skill to track, and that's something we're starting to look at the collegiate level with our students, because our students who are better critical thinkers do better within our curriculum. And so if we can make people better critical thinkers early on in our curriculum, our students will have more success moving forward. Some opportunities that I have, so I'm local, I know a lot of you guys are local and your programs are local. We take students all the time in schools for field trips at Shenandoah where we can give them a tour of our lab facility, and we'll set up activities that the students can go through and kind of see hands-on what is the science of exercise science. We do career days where we usually go to different schools when they're having their career day, and we can bring a lot of our equipment for students, and we can set that up and they can see, well, what would a research lab look like in exercise science? How can I measure muscle EMG? And they can do that live time as we're doing those presentations. And then I actually work with the American Physiological Society for Physiology Fun Week. And so as part of that program, they send me a bunch of materials, and I can go into elementary, middle, and high schools, and I can do activities. And it's meant to be scientific activities. So I come in and I run a lab the same way, or tailored for the age of the students, the way I would at the collegiate level, but using some fun, fancy equipment that we have. And then also career development. So what is a scientist? So when I get up in front of little elementary school kids, and I stand up there and I say, what is the scientist? They give me this standard, like, white man with gray hair and glasses and a lab coat. And I stand up there and say, but I'm a scientist, right? So we talk about breaking down those stereotypes of who can be a scientist. And I think it's really important when they're young to hear that. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you.